Hey guys, in this week's episode, we are talking about the Criterion Collection version of Nightmare Alley, 1947. But before that, we are talking about Yellowjackets, Righteous Gemstones Season 2, the Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser trailer, and Peacemaker Season 1 wrap-up. There's a lot, so join us!
Beautifully done.
Welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris, and joining me, as always, same as last week, except for he's in black and white. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. I feel like flying too close to the sun, because nothing bad could ever happen if you just go for it. That's what I've learned from both of these versions of Nightmare Alley. Just go for it.
Just go for it. Makes sense.
That's the point, right?
Yes, indeed. But also with us is a man who was redeemed because of an extra 5 minutes in the film. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm riding the high of happy endings, you know. I think they always happen and should always happen in movies. So
absolutely.
I'm pumped. I don't know how you're not.
Yeah. What could you possibly get from leaving a theater or leaving a movie experience sad?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Nothing. That's the answer to that
I don't
question.
ever want to find out, that's for sure.
Yeah. If this is your first time listening, this is a casually Criterion episode, which is a Criterion Collection focused episode that we like to do at least every other episode, where we review a film from the Criterion Collection that is voted on by the listeners, except for this week, Chris just decided to make it happen.
Yeah, mid-episode last week. My bad, guys.
Yeah.
The thing is, only Chris listened to the last episode, so...
Yeah. So he decided. Okay, so Before we get into the main review, we will be doing the usual News on the March, where we talk about the recent news and things that we have been watching, usually just the latter. So if you haven't seen the movie, you could still listen for a good long time. And then we'll move into our casually Criterion review for Nightmare Alley, spine number 1078.
Ooh.
That's right. And as you mentioned, we have a poll to choose our Criterion film. So before Chris jumped in and, stole the limelight from the listeners.
Ooh.
Mike, why don't you tell people what our last poll was and who the winner was of that poll?
Sure. So we each chose a film with a similar theme, and the theme was directors that we are doing for the first time on this podcast. So we each chose a film from a director that we haven't tackled yet. And so the following were what we came up with. The winner, with 42.9%, was my choice, Limelight, directed by Charlie Chaplin.
See what I did there earlier?
Yep. Now you get that brilliant joke that we talked about and explained.
Real punchline followed by the setup situation we have here.
Yeah, pretty great. He's like a real Mitch Hurwitz over here.
That's how you do it.
All right, number 2, Ali, Fear Eats the Soul. Who chose this one?
That was me.
All right, well, that's 33.3%. Who directed that, sir?
That was, oh boy, I'm the worst when it's like at the last second. It's what's his name from?
That's right,
Germany.
What's his name from Germany? That's famed
right. Fassbender, but not Michael.
No, not Michael. All right, this went great.
Rainer Werner Fassbender. I got it.
There it is. Chris, did you just jump in and choose Nightmare Alley because you lost?
Yeah, I don't want to say that name.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. And number 3, The Exterminating Angel came in at 23.8%, which was chosen by Justin. And of course, Justin, who directed that film?
Luis Buñuel.
He was ready.
Yeah, he knew what was happening. He took the time when I was trying to think of it.
I didn't get to spring it on him.
Yeah, nobody will know we edited about 10 minutes while I Googled out of that. That's not true.
Or is it?
I know. But anyways, that poll could have been found on our Twitter account. That's where we post the polls. That's where you can vote. It's the best place to follow us. We are on there at Casual Cinecast. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Casual Cinecast as well. If you want to send us any messages, ask us any questions about the movies we're reviewing, you can message us on any of those social media accounts or send an email to casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then, of course, if you haven't done so already, you like the show, you want to help other people find it, go on to iTunes or whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. Give us a 5-star review, a 10-star review, a thumbs up, whatever it is. And that'll help people find the show.
Yeah, please and thank you. Okay, and with that, I think it's time we move into news on the march. What do you guys say?
March on.
I think you're right.
All right.
Just being honest, I think it's time.
I'm right too.
Spot on.
Yep, it's that time on the show notes.
News on the march.
Okay, Mike, you're up first in News on the March. So what do you got?
Sure. So other than the movie we are going to be talking about next week, which is The Batman, I haven't really been watching very many movies. It's been mostly TV shows that I've been kind of catching up on. And here recently, and as in just last night, I finished the first season of a show called Yellowjackets that has been on Showtime. Have you guys heard of this show?
Sure have.
Yeah, nature documentary, right?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Narrated by Mark Wahlberg about the bees dying. Yeah.
Oh no.
All right. Anyways, it's not that. It's actually a show starring Melanie Linsky, Juliette Lewis, Christina Ricci, and a few other girls. Sophie Thatcher, who you'll recognize from Book of Boba Fett recently.
Nice.
Yeah, and a few other people that I recognize the face. One of the wives from Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyways, so
Nice.
This is a show that it's actually much like Book of Boba Fett. It takes place both in present day and in the past. And so Yellowjackets kind of switches back and forth between 1996 and then I guess present day. And it's about a team of soccer players going to nationals, and their plane crashes, and they are lost in the wilderness for 13 months.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah, and only a few come back alive.
Sure.
And so they kind of have like a bunch of urban legends about what they did out there to survive, you know, and what they might have had to consume, you know. Anyways, so there's
Did
stuff
they eat
going on in present
Yellowjackets?
day. Maybe. You'll have to see.
Spoilers.
But basically, yeah, there's flashbacks going on. There's 2 timelines going on. Revelations, kind of like Lost, you know, like present day storylines. You'll flash back to see kind of more of what's going on in the past and what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to spoil anything, but suffice to say, it gets real Lord of the Flies
Yeah.
in a really interesting way. So it's a dark show. I was kind of disappointed at the end of season 1, but only because I didn't know that there was going to be a season 2.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, man, they're not wrapping things up in a way that I'm happy with. And then I realized why.
Yeah, that'll explain it.
Yeah. But I would give it a shot. It's dark. It's like not a happy show.
Emphasis on horror,
Right.
too? Like, it's pretty bloody and violent?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely blood. It's not... Just watch. I would say just watch it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And Christina Ricci... It is like a crime that she is not doing more things. Like, I grew up with Christina Ricci. She was in like Casper and Addams Family movies and all this, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up with her, and then it feels like once she hit adulthood, she kind of disappeared and went more obscure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's been working if you like look at her IMDb, but it's good to see her again. You know, I haven't seen her in a while, and I like Christina Ricci.
Yeah,
And she's great in
She's always
this.
good.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all. I just gotta say, I recommend it. You know, now I don't know if it would have been better to watch week to week, maybe, but I binged it in like 3 days, and it felt good. 10
How many episodes is it? 10?
Yeah, 10.
Very nice.
So-
well,
Anyway, throw Showtime a bone.
sounds pretty good. I mean, you definitely had me at soccer. You kind of lost me at plane crash.
Yeah,
But
well,
I'm
there's
back
very
in.
little soccer going on, but
Well, damn.
Let me ask you this. Is it, like, if we all watched it, is there like a lot of stuff to dive into? Like, should we watch it and then like do a larger segment on it, or what do you think?
I mean, yeah, if you guys end up watching it and watch like the end of season 1, I could do a wrap up on it.
How excited are you about season 2? That's the question.
So let's put it this way. I think Yellowjacket starts off really strong. There is a little bit in the middle where I was like, I don't know that it's as good, but it really picks up steam near the end. And so the last like 3 episodes got me pretty pumped for season 2.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna.
It feels full. It feels like a good season.
Yeah. Everybody's been talking about this for a while, and of course we're several weeks removed from the finale. But I think I'll catch up on this, and we'll see where maybe we'll do something more on this.
Cool. Yeah, you have my information. You know, you can keep me posted.
Yeah, I'll text you.
Yeah. Same. I'll watch it too.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. Watch the first episode. I think if that doesn't hook you, the show's probably not for you. But I find the first episode to be a pretty strong start.
Yeah.
To where you're like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah. Not to get too much off like on a tangent here, but I think I slept on the last like show or two that you recommended on the podcast, and I didn't like watch it very quickly. And I just recently finished Midnight Mass, which you were like raving about on here, and I didn't take your recommendation. And I could have been a better part of like this when it was like popular and zeitgeisty instead of buried in Netflix like it is now.
So. I mean, even when it was still buried by Squid Game.
Sure.
That's true. Okay, that's probably why I didn't get to it very quickly, but I'm going to try to rectify that mistake and watch this much quicker instead of like 6 to 8 months from now.
Well, it's not as profound and complete as Midnight Mass, but anyway.
I'm not comparing them, just saying your recommendations are solid, and I'm not going to sleep on them as much anymore.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
That's really what this whole segment was about. Trying to get to that.
And also real quick, my pitch, you guys should watch Severance. It's a really great show, but mainly because I want to talk to you guys about it. Like, have either one of you guys seen it?
No, but I keep hearing about it. This is another Ben Stiller. Did he direct every episode?
Not everyone, but like 6 out of the 10 or something like that.
Dude, after Escape at Dannemora, I will follow Ben Stiller down this road.
Yeah, it's really good. And anyways, this is an unplanned Severance mention, but we should definitely talk about it.
Watch it. Talk about it next week, maybe.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, well, speaking of TV shows and getting them out of the way, are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so a few weeks back, a couple of us talked about The Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, season 2 started coming out.
Season 2. Yeah, and I know, Chris, you don't watch this show, but here's my brief recommendation. You should. That's what it's going to be. You should watch this show. I think you would like it. It's fun.
I'm sure I would. I liked Eastbound and Down, and
to me, it's stronger than that.
Sure. Well, that's good. One of my resolutions at the beginning of the year was to not watch as much TV and then like delve more into movies. So I've been trying to really be careful about the shows I pick because I don't want to dive into, watch 10 I don't know. It's a dumb resolution that I'm trying to keep, but nonetheless, there it is. So I kind of try to avoid those.
Next time you get the itch, Righteous Gemstones, they're only 8-episode seasons. Season 2 just wrapped, and they're only 30 minutes long. So
season 2 has 9 episodes.
Oh, that's right. They threw a curveball. So,
but season 1 has 8.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Justin, what did you think of season 2 now that it's all said and done? How did it compare to season 1?
I thought season 2 was really fun. I don't think it was as strong as season 1. So I think they have to kind of, up the stakes and up the ante a little bit, right? And some of the ways in which they did that, I think it was like kind of telegraphed to me a lot of what happened, in the season. It was like kind of like a bit obvious, and the mystery wasn't quite as there because they had to do such strong things that like, I'm trying to be vague here, but that's really my only complaint was that I think having this sort of like mystery, like what exactly is going on or who's behind what, in season 2, they don't quite land that, I don't think. And I don't remember season 1 having quite as much of that, like who's behind what. It was just kind of like straightforward. Here's what's going on and here's the drama. And I liked that a little bit better, but it's funny. It's good. I think it's almost as good as season 1. Overall, the show's, a great blend of like comedy and action, with like comedy being first, or maybe not action, suspense, drama. What would you call it?
Yeah, I mean, comedy, action comedy. I don't know, but not that much action.
Yeah, to me, Chris, you mentioned Eastbound and Down, and I like this better. I think this is a little bit closer to something like Barry.
Oh, cool.
Than it is another like Eastbound and Down type situation. So I think that adds something extra to this that I didn't really expect, because I thought it was going to be a bit more like Eastbound and Down. But
yeah, this show's like, I would say primarily a comedy, but I would say it has more of a heart than Eastbound and Down seems to have.
Yeah. I think you end up caring about characters a lot more, at least from what I've seen of Eastbound and Down, which is basically only partway into season 2. And
I would say that season 1 focused primarily on the kids of the Righteous Gemstones, like John Goodman's children, like Adam Devine, Danny McBride, and then I forget the actress who plays the sister, but she's great.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. But I think season 2 focuses and puts the spotlight a little bit more on John Goodman, which was welcome to me at the time because John Goodman's pretty great.
Yeah.
And he's great in this show. And Walton Goggins is good.
He is good. And but newcomer to this season, Eric Roberts.
Eric Andre.
Wait.
Is both Eric Roberts and... I know Eric Roberts is in Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, I think they're both in it.
Oh, okay.
Eric Andre was fine. I thought it was... Like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. But, like, Eric Roberts, when he was around, was... Am I thinking...
Yeah.
That's the right name, right?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
You're right. I was going to Eric Andre first because we just saw Jackass recently, so I was thinking that's the Eric you were talking about. But yeah, no, the tension's really great when Eric Roberts is around. It's fun to see him and John Goodman play off each other. And overall, I kind of agree with you, though. It's season 2 is fun and enjoyable, but season 1 probably still has a little bit of a leg up over it.
Yeah, not bad by any means. And I think also worth mentioning that Righteous Gemstones alongside Euphoria, which I don't know if we've talked about that much on this show, but maybe we should soon when season 2 wraps up. But they are really, upping the ratio of male genitalia on TV.
They're just
out there.
Yeah, HBO leading the charge.
Yeah, and the show's right on the front line. So, just fair warning.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Anything else you want to say about Righteous Gemstones?
Nope. I don't think so.
Watch it. It's funny.
Yep. True.
So something dropped earlier today that we are talking about now, and that is the Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser trailer.
Yay.
Which I'm going to lead with this. It's a strange criticism, possibly, but I'm going to lead with it. I think they should drop the Obi-Wan off the name of this series.
I thought they did.
No, apparently not. It's called Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Great. They should have done that with Book of Boba Fett too and just called it Fett. Anyways.
All right.
Title aside, well, Chris, you've seen this?
Yeah.
I assume we all have. What are your thoughts, Chris?
These trailers, I always come to the show when I talk about it, and I'm always excited. The trailers always get me excited for the show. Like I'm super excited for Moon Knight. I was super excited for, WandaVision and, like all those shows. And then the results are a little bit varying, I would say. What I will say about this trailer that I appreciate of it is it brought me back to 1999 when I had remember Entertainment Tonight? They it was like a news show about entertainment, and it was on every night. That's why it's called that. Yeah. Anyways, they showed a trailer, the Star Wars trailer on TV, and I was so excited about it. I got my VHS tape and recorded it. And the thing I loved the most about the prequel trilogy is the Duel of the Fates music, and I'm pretty sure the Duel of the Fates music is in the Kenobi trailer. It's hard to miss, but I loved that music, and it got me really hyped to see, those people facing off again. Hopefully, I don't know if we'll get a Darth Vader in here. It seems like we will, but yeah, it made me really excited. The other thing that I appreciate about it is that at the end it said limited series, and that means that we're going to get the one story. We're not going to it'll wrap everything up, and we can move on from there. Like Star Wars is going to go on forever, but we'll wrap up this story, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, I found a lot of stuff exciting about it, but we'll go to Justin. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. There's obviously a huge nostalgia seeing Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan, which, we've seen pictures and that's one thing, but to me actually like seeing it and seeing how good it looks, because I think this looks good. Like to me, there's almost feels like a step up in quality from Mandalorian and Boba Fett to this. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but it just looked a little bit more like a movie budget than the other things.
Sure, and that's what you'll get from the trailer too, I think. But I think you're right.
Yeah, but in terms of like nostalgia, I mean, I got choked up when it was done. Like there were some moments in there that you hit the nostalgia thing, like we're spoiling this thing, I think, really, because it's a teaser trailer, but like there's a shot of young Luke in there.
Trying to fly his house.
Yeah. Not going to work, but...
Nope, he ain't going anywhere, but...
He's
got dreams.
To quote Pixar's rules for writing, we appreciate characters more for their efforts than their success. Right?
Yeah.
Anyways... After it was over, I just was like, kind of just, it all then like sunk in that like this thing exists and we get to see Ewan again as Obi-Wan, and like I got kind of choked up and emotional. So I haven't watched it since because I don't want to like actually cry at work in front of everybody, but it got me teary-eyed really thinking about it. So like I just loved it and I think it looks cool and I'm really excited. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I definitely think there's a step up in, I don't want to say step up in quality, but I would say there is a step up in budget attached to this that I think is apparent, because at one point this was going to be a movie, right? I think they were going to try to make 2 movies or 3 movies out of the story they're telling here. So instead, I think a 6-episode miniseries is probably the better way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think definitely you're going to see marketing. You're going to see them treat this probably more like a movie than anything Disney Plus has produced since then, right? I think you're going to see a stronger marketing campaign than you did in Book of Boba or Mandalorian. You got Ewan McGregor behind this thing being a producer on it, so I think he feels confident in it. I think so. He wants to feel good about it too. I think he has been on record numerous times saying that, it wasn't fun living through the reception of the prequel movies, but now that generation of kids who grew up with those movies are there, they overlook the flaws in the prequel trilogy that we probably overlook in things like Return of the Jedi, right? Whenever they retcon Luke and Leia being siblings and et cetera, right? It's pretty sloppy, but when you're a little kid, you don't care about that kind of stuff. And I think that generation of kids has now grown up, and I think you can definitely tell Ewan McGregor seems pretty excited about this stuff. And I don't know, it looks good. Deborah Chow directed the whole thing.
She did do all 6 episodes?
Yeah, she did all of it. And which excites me because she does some of the Better Call Saul stuff and some of the better Mandalorian stuff.
Yeah. And that really excites me in general because it feels like there's maybe a little bit more of a unique vision that comes from it. I always get excited when I hear that, like it's one director for the whole show.
Like Cary Fukunaga in True Detective Season 1.
Sure.
Sometimes like one director doing the whole thing gives it a tone and a consistency. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but we get to wax intellectual about the auteur theory when that happens.
One other thing, too, that I really liked about the trailer, and I like the start-off point for Obi-Wan Kenobi, like he says something like, the war's over, we lost. I like emo Kenobi,
Yeah, he's a wanted man right now.
Yeah, so like a little bit depressed and trying to scrap things together. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting about this is actually that this time period hasn't really been fleshed out in live action at all. You get I think Solo that takes place, I think maybe a couple years before this, like the Solo movie. And then you have Rogue One, but that takes place right before the original trilogy, right up against it.
When does Solo take place?
I think 8 years into the Empire. And this is 10 years, I believe. I may be wrong, or you may need to reverse those.
I will take your word for it.
Yeah, but point is, it's fun to see stuff that if you've been playing the video games or watching the cartoons or reading the extended universe stuff, the Inquisitors, right? Like Vader's Inquisitors. These are fallen Jedi who are now work for the Sith, and their job is to hunt Jedi. And you see multiple of them in this trailer, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And a lot of them you see in the cartoon Rebels, and then some of them you don't. So they're probably going to die. But you don't know. You don't know that. That's the beauty of this whole extended universe thing, is you can just kind of create stuff and then retcon it and keep retconning it. And that's just sort of what this is, right? But yeah, no, it's exciting. Yeah, Vader's Inquisitors, I'm pretty sure those will lead to Vader. We know we're going to get Hayden Christensen in this thing. I think there's going to be flashbacks. So yeah, I'm here for it. It looks really exciting. And I'm glad that they're not, I don't think they're giving away like the money shots in this trailer, right? But they're not playing it so close to their chest to where I think people are going to be disappointed, like with Book of Boba Fett, where they're like, they showed us like almost nothing in those trailers. You know, like here they give us some meat to really digest, right?
Yeah, they do. Just I don't know if like the musical references, and Chris, you mentioned Duel of the Fates, like that's definitely, if the exact music isn't in here, it's certainly referenced in the score for the trailer, and the shot of Luke and that sort of thing. But like I don't know if, and I think we get Vader's breathing, right? But so they're giving us these like things that I assume are like strong hints at what we'll see.
Yeah, and based on what I know, I think that's true.
Yeah. So that's nice.
Yeah. So anyways,
that means that there's like probably another surprise or two that they aren't hinting at, or that we don't know, that's going to be even like more mind-blowy than any of the things that are hinted at in the teaser.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be like a true bridge between the two trilogies, which still feel sort of, I don't know, like they don't really blend. If you watch them all in chronological order, you get to like where you go Revenge of the Sith, skip to A New Hope, and you're like, oh, this is kind of clunky. The way this is fit together. You know what I mean? Like Obi-Wan not recognizing R2-D2 and all that stuff. So I don't know. I feel like they could do one of two things with this show, right? They could make the two trilogies blend together even better and explain away some of the stuff in A New Hope, like I haven't felt that presence since, wandering off, or they could ruin it because, right? Like if Obi-Wan and Vader interact too much, or if Obi-Wan like meets certain people he shouldn't, it could throw off the beginning of A New Hope, right? Like the relationship with Luke has to be perfectly balanced, right? The relationship with Bail Organa and Luke's uncle has to be very well, like, you know what I mean? Like you can't go too far in this to make A New Hope feel less like, you know what I mean? Like make the interaction seem less, right?
Right.
You can't do too much with Vader and Obi-Wan to where it ruins the impact of I haven't felt that presence since. You need to Better Call Saul it to Breaking Bad. You don't need to
right.
Make it worse.
I agree.
Just a minor tangent here. When are we ever going to get off Tatooine?
In this show.
Are we going to stop doing Tatooine TV shows?
No, I think Tatooine's always going to be there, but I don't think Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to spend a bulk of the series on Tatooine, like the trailers might have you believe.
Okay, good. Because Tatooine may be a hub, but we have spent a lot of time, for a galaxy that's really big, we spent a lot of time on Tatooine.
Yeah. Down for some new places.
Yeah, I agree with you, but given the nature of what the Obi-Wan Kenobi show has to at least start out as, you can't really avoid Tatooine.
Yeah, makes sense, makes sense.
Cool.
All right, anything else we want to say?
Nope.
No?
I'm excited.
Move on.
Yeah, moving on. All right, last thing in news on the march. Peacemaker Season 1. It's been wrapped up for a couple weeks now, but we haven't really recorded since we've all seen it. So, Chris, why don't you kick us off? What did you think of Peacemaker?
Yeah, I really liked it. James, I really like James Gunn, I think. I feel like he's able to do more in Peacemaker than he was able to do in the Suicide Squad. and like delve into characters that I didn't think I cared about or didn't think I would care about. You know, like in episode 1 of Peacemaker, I love a good found family, TV show or movie, and Peacemaker's really good at that found family. In fact, I think James Gunn's like specialty is found family, so he's really good at that. But I liked how vulgar it was and how like blue it was. But at the same time, you get this like heart. You know, there's a particular scene at the very, last, I won't give it away, about a beard. And I just found that scene so touching in the middle of like this crass, violent show. And it still has these human characters that have, these human emotions that I feel attached to and want to see succeed. And we talked a little bit about the Batman earlier, and we're going to get a Penguin TV show, and there's possibly like an Arkham TV show. And the only thing I can hope is that they take a page out of James Gunn's book and do something similar to this, where it expounds and deepens the characters as opposed to feels tacked on. Of course, that goes without saying, but I really like Peacemaker a lot. I am constantly haunted by this Facebook post I made, 10 or 12 years ago about, what's the main character's name? The wrestler, John Cena.
John Cena?
Yeah. John Cena was in some sort of like military movie where he was like
The Marine.
The Marine, yeah. And at the time, we were working at Blockbuster. And somebody came in and was like, "That John Cena, he's a darn good actor." And I posted.
You scoffed at them.
I scoffed at him. And I, in fact, went on to the new Facebook social media app and was like made fun of him. And every year it comes back and is like, 15 years ago on this day, you said John Cena was a bad actor. Boy, were you wrong. And I was. And anyways. So that's my story. John Cena's great in this. The whole cast is great. But Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, so, I mean, I agree with you. I enjoy the stuff that James Gunn has been doing with the DC Warner Brothers combination, because they allow him to kind of be rated R, and
Sure.
They don't really try to rein him in too much, which, I like Guardians of the Galaxy. The first one, I think, is probably one of the better MCU movies, one of the best soundtracks.
Yeah.
Of any movie ever, maybe? I mean, not any movie ever, but it's up there, right? Like, it's a good soundtrack. It's a solid soundtrack, and it coincides with my taste in music, even more so than Peacemaker tends to. I think he's got a great ear for music and writing that into the script in a way that feels fun, that like only people like Tarantino seem to do, like these mic drop moments. Yeah, he's just up there. He's one of the best at working with music and licensing that out. But yeah, it's fun to see him be able to cut loose, right? Guardians 2 felt like a little too censored for James Gunn. Like, I think he wanted to do more with, the Kurt Russell betting every kind of thing in the galaxy and creating a bunch of babies. Like, that could have been way more interesting on HBO, you know what I mean, than it ever could be with Marvel. And I think that's where he really shines in this. I think he found, dare I say, a better version of Guardians of the Galaxy in the Suicide Squad. And he took the character. Thank you. He took the character that I probably least wanted to see a spinoff of, and then turned it into something even better than the Suicide Squad. You have this simpleton idiot who swears he's going to kill every man, woman, and child he deems necessary for peace, and you're like, okay, that's a funny offhanded joke in a movie about villains on a suicide mission. But do I want to see that in TV show form? And the answer is yes, I do.
Well, sure. We just didn't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you hinted on earlier is like it's the balancing act that James Gunn seems to be able to really have down now. Like, you can have the most immature, idiotic improv fart joke sequence that goes on almost too long, and then immediately switch gears into like a heartfelt, emotional scene about friends who wronged each other or weren't kind to each other, and having to really reckon with that. So it has complete, like, irreverent, immature humor juxtaposed with like really complex, emotionally intelligent writing. And the last episode of Peacemaker got me so pumped multiple times. Right? There's a part where they start playing like the main theme song in the show, and I was there for it, man. I was in it.
And in that moment, they're playing that main theme song, and you're worried about the characters. You're thinking, well, like, will they survive? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really great. That was probably that was a great moment in the show, if not the best.
Yeah, I think the whole last episode is great. To be honest with you, I think the way the whole like last episode wraps up, everything it says, the visual storytelling on display, like the music, the mic drops, everything about the way this show wraps up, I think really just makes me appreciate the Suicide Squad and the rest of the season even more. So I think it wrapped up really strongly, and I would be happy if it was just one season, but I'm down for a season 2.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
What about you, Justin?
I mean, everything you guys said have pretty much hit on my feelings. Once again, it was another show that I was a little reluctant to watch, just because basically all the reasons you guys said, which was like, I enjoyed Suicide Squad, but then turning it into a show just kind of was like, maybe that's too much. Absolutely wrong, like you guys have said. I love the show. I thought it was really great. Way better than I expected it to be. John Cena's way funnier than I thought he was going to be, even based on what he did in Suicide Squad. He was funny, but there's a whole another layer to this, and I think he's really great. And what James Gunn, to me, has proven that he can do that I think a lot of superhero movies kind of suffer from, even Marvel included, is the sort of like the final showdown, the climax,
I would say Marvel especially.
Yeah, they pioneered that final climax problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Kristen.
Well, I think with both Suicide Squad and this, like if you go back and listen to our Suicide Squad review episode, I'm pretty sure the thing I was most hyped on was how good the final battle and final monster and climax of the movie was compared to other superhero stuff, and this is no exception. The last episode's really great, and it's really engaging and fun, and I think all of that work making us laugh and then care is one of the things that makes it really successful, on top of creating actual good, like interesting bad guys that you have to fight, and kind of watching the characters like figure out something rather than like Marvel and other DC stuff. It's been like, well, we just got to fight them harder and reach down deep inside to beat them, and think
I got to get over my existential crisis.
Yeah. It's a little bit more complex than that here, and I really like that. So I just add that on to everything that you guys have said, and also the cast is all fantastic. I think the person who surprised me maybe the most is what is his name? Freddie Stroma, Vigilante.
Yeah.
He's so funny. Like he almost steals the show from like John Cena on like a comedy level.
Well, he's like channeling Jason Lee. It feels like he's like.
I thought it was Jason Lee for several episodes before you see Under the Mask.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he's that kind of like best friend. I don't know, like dude, come on, energy. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's
like, but also like not a great person, but funny.
Yeah. like a sociopath that doesn't know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I was described like Jason Lee and like Mallrats and like Chasing Amy as like, kind of like the lovable asshole.
Yeah, I guess that would be.
Yeah.
Sociopath is also a good word for it.
Yeah, except a vigilante in this show is actually nicer than Jason Lee in those movies. He's just a murderer also.
Yeah.
And it's always funny whenever like he cuts over and like from his point of view he's doing something cool, but then it'll like cut to a wide shot and he's like peeking out from behind a dumpster in the middle of the day. And it's like not very cool looking or secretive. Or he'll get really upset whenever no one gives him a chainsaw.
It's pretty great.
Great stuff.
But yeah, no, I agree. The whole cast is great. John Cena's great. They even use some well-placed cameos to add for full effectiveness, I think, near the end of the season.
Yeah,
which were kind of fun.
Yeah. And just to add on to your like bad guys, there are no bad guys necessarily. Like that's a good thing that I think James Gunn does as well, is we see from everybody's perspective why they're doing what they're doing. Like even the villain in this show is really gray, and we understand where they're coming from. And then there's a great scene where Peacemaker has to make a decision, and you're kind of like, well, I don't know what decision he would make, I don't know which one's right even, it's really good. High recommend if you haven't seen it, but although if you haven't seen it by now, you're probably not going to watch it.
Let's be real.
Can we be honest with each other?
Yeah, listeners.
Yeah. Okay, are we done?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, that was a long news on the march.
Into the episode.
Oh, what?
We're quite a ways into this episode, so.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Like I said, that was a long news on the march. So now I think we should probably get to the main event, our Casually Criterion review for Nightmare Alley, spine number 1078. Begins now.
All right, so as always with our Criterion films, they are typically older films that have been out for at least a couple of years, something like that. This one has been out for a lot more than that. It's from 1947, so if you have not seen this movie, we are not going to be doing our usual spoiler-free general discussion about the film. We're going to jump straight into talking about it, spoilers and all. The only thing I will say is this may also spoil the new Nightmare Alley, which is maybe a little
probably
bit
a good caveat.
Yeah. So if you have not seen either Nightmare Alley and you don't want anything spoiled at all, pause the podcast now, go watch one of the movies or both of them, whatever you're going to do, and then come back and finish listening to this episode.
Yeah, only you can decide how much you really want to go down this path.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nightmare Alley was directed by Edmund Goulding. It stars Tyrone Power, Joan Blondell, Colleen Gray, and Helen Walker. The IMDb synopsis says, the rise and fall of Stanton Carlyle, a mentalist whose lies and deceit prove to be his downfall.
It's a whole damn movie.
It is the whole damn movie.
In one sentence, but that's fine.
Yeah. It's succinct.
I think you said this off air, maybe, but if you didn't, sorry for repeating it, but the people going to see this movie at this point are probably most likely coming from the new Nightmare Alley, so I don't think I'm worried about spoiling it in the synopsis.
No, and I guess the reason we try to frame it this way is because if you scroll back one episode in your show notes, you'll notice that we just recently talked about Nightmare Alley, and that inspired us to do this episode. So I don't really know how to approach this without, at least doing some surface level comparisons to the execution and the content versus each story, because to be honest, this version of the movie did actually make me look at things a little differently. And the other one, and motivations and stuff too, right? So
yeah.
So who wants to get us started with this? I guess Chris, I think you should, since you made this happen, you willed this into existence.
Well, yeah, sure.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So I actually watched the Nightmare Alley. I'd seen it. We talked about it a little bit last week. I'd seen it before I watched the new Nightmare Alley. Now I've seen both films twice, so I'm a veritable scholar.
You're like an expert
on all things. Yeah. Nightmare Alley, because I've spent 8 hours watching those movies. But not really. It's really interesting. I really like this movie, the original. I like Tyrone Power, I think, is really good. It's really hard not to compare the two movies. But what I would say is, I think this movie looks good. I like the way that a lot of these things are going to be similar to, I guess, the newer movie, but I like the time that we get to spend in the carnival. I really have a good time in this movie where we spend that time in the carnival and we kind of see how they do their tricks, and we get a view into how the carnival works, and Tyrone Power's like learning how to, like be a mentalist, and I'm using air quotes. I'm going to pass it off to Mike. I really enjoy this movie, and it'll be interesting to see how this conversation develops, because I have not done a very good job so far. Mike, how about you? What'd you think?
Well, like I said at the top, it is difficult to not compare them. I'm not going to try as fiercely as you did, but also I do want to kind of review this movie on its own terms. And I would say that it holds up. It's a good noir. Yeah. It's a good, like I said, rise and fall story. You've seen a million of these kinds of rise and fall stories. Icarus Flies Too Close to the Sun, etc. But this is an effective one. And it's well acted. It's well scripted because, man, is it condensed. Like, it's a more condensed version of a longer story, right? I've never read the book, but I have seen the other version. And so I know how it could be longer, and I know where they cut some things out in this version. I don't know that that's always had the greater effect. There is a lot of explaining going on in this film and not showing. And there's a whole lot of like breezing over and through important meetings and conversations that might help add up to what the ending ultimately is and what happens. And I think maybe this film takes it a little too breezy in some areas, but it's not confusing equally.
Sure.
And the arc works. The emotional arc works. I would say that you're right that whenever he is in the carnival, the story is just inherently more interesting.
In both movies, too, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just the more interesting part of the story. Once it starts getting to him branching out on his own, I think that's where the issues in both adaptations really start to come through. That said, I think this is extremely well filmed for 1947. It is a very good-looking movie. There are some just really great like shadows just cast on walls, like plain walls in this movie. Like when he goes into an office, the psychiatrist's office in this movie, and you see like the lighting on the wall, like coming down from above, and it casts this like just wonderful shadows on the back wall behind him. It just makes me like love noir, right? Or these really tight conversations where like these deep shadows over half their faces while they talk at night sometimes is just really moody and cool. I would say it's not as gritty as I think the subject matter of the story needs, but it's also 1947, so what are you going to do? But there's some pretty gritty noirs out there in 1940s. So I see where this could have gone a little further in some places, but ultimately it's mostly pretty good. It's mostly pretty good. I like it. I think it's a solid film, and again, stand out to the way it was shot. Yeah. So Justin, what do you think?
Well, I think just as a caveat, I'm kind of the one who came away from the original Nightmare Alley with the most issues with like the story and character development and that sort of thing. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So watching this one, I think there's a lot of places that are better here, and there are a few things that are not as good. But overall, I like this movie or this version of the movie more. I think having the black and white noir adds a bit of a sort of nostalgic charm, I would say, that papers over some of the problems that I had with the newer one. I think they're maybe not quite as glaring here. I also think I think that the women shine better in this movie in terms of like feeling a bit more like well-rounded characters, and not characters that are there to just like serve a purpose at the end of the movie in some cases, right?
I would agree with half of that. I think one character is done real dirty in this version.
Is it the wife?
Yeah, Molly.
Yeah.
They basically take away all her agency, and I don't know. I thought she was much more interesting of a character, but I agree with you about Xena.
Yeah, Xena, I think has a lot more interesting in this one. I also think the psychiatrist role is much better in this.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Xena was the name I was trying to pull out from before. But yeah, I think that relationship is better here for whatever reason.
It's much more clear.
Yeah, and the psychiatrist one is he like. I don't know if the new one, he actually has like a relationship with her necessarily, but there is more sexual stuff going on there. And in this one, like she advances on him and he's like, no, thanks. What if we get caught? You know, like that's the one time he says no to any like crazy, plan type of thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry, Justin, go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think that there was a moment, like a legitimate moment, having seen the newer version and knowing what's coming. I thought that was something they added in the new movie because I didn't think it was going to happen in this one. Right?
What moment's that?
The twist with the psychiatrist.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that didn't happen. And then even just at certain points, I thought they just buried that a whole lot better in this one. And her performance, I think, is a bit more subtle, or maybe just the character overall, right? Like,
yeah.
So I kind of think that works a little bit better. I do think in terms of being a noir film, I don't know that I've seen another noir set like this. It's like noir mixed with not quite as hard of an edge, like Freaks. Like that sort of like circus vibe, circus carnival thing that makes this feel wholly original in terms of the noirs that I've seen.
Yeah, there's not a lot of carnival noirs, I don't think.
Yeah. And Tyrone Power's great. He's, super handsome, really confident, really charming. So I think that while he's like the star of the movie, I do think that like it's really nice to see like to me these like women roles are like the standouts to me, like Helen Walker as a psychiatrist and Joan Blondell as Xena. I thought just were really, really great and much more interesting to watch. But other places, obviously this movie has like a tacked on happy ending. I don't know if we want to get there, but it suffers from that sort of thing, this sort of like Hollywood cleanliness or something that was like washed over the script or, omitted from the book or added, whatever.
I would say I think the film suffers greatly for that tacked on ending. To be honest with you, it really left a bad taste in my mouth. And not only from like the treating the character of Molly that way, but also, I don't know, making what it means to be a geek less, right?
Permanent, yeah.
Yeah, like less humiliating, less degrading, like kind of ruins the point of the whole thing, I think, if he's able to just be like, and like he was a geek for a day.
Yeah.
He's like, they hired him earlier today, and he's like running around like a moron, like
not even a full
paddle.
Day. That bugs me so much.
The thing is, you can't come like the thing that's conveyed so well in the new version is like once you're a geek, you don't come back from that.
Yeah, like once you bite the head off a chicken, you're a different guy, and people aren't going to want to kiss you or like hang out with you or like be your wife anymore after that.
And even I know there's a lot of movies where like there's these like, and I wouldn't even call this a happy ending. So, but like because if you just like use your imagination, what happens after that last scene? What, they get back together? Like, do you think that they can have a happy marriage after everything that's happened? And I think back then it was like, you stay in your marriage no matter what type of thing. So maybe that's why it was happy. But like, I can't imagine the scene after this being very happy, so yeah, it was weird that they had to tack that on.
I think there's also the implication that he may have some clout with like the circus or the carnival manager now, because he was like, I didn't even recognize him.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
For some, even though he looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's not like he had a beard.
He didn't even have a
like
5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, exactly. Like
His
no
eyes
stubble,
looked-
nothing.
There's some sort of thing on his like eye makeup or something, like where his eyelids look like they were drooping, or something weird there in that scene. But yeah,
But it's weird because that was supposed to be the same carnival manager, right? That he worked for before. Or was it a different one?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
the reason he didn't recognize him was just because he'd heard of the great mentalist. But
okay.
But he didn't recognize it. He didn't expect to see him there, you know. But I think everyone's heard of Mr. Carlisle at that point in time,
Right.
who's in the industry, you know.
Yeah.
And did Molly was she also working at that carnival? You know, like
She said she'd been running around looking for him.
yeah, it's so weird. I mean,
So it's
I
like,
hate
granted,
to,
he did become a homeless drunk right before becoming a geek, but he'd been a geek less than a day. Had he even bitten the head off a chicken yet? I don't know.
yeah, and we don't get all the like. This is how you like train a geek. You got to put him on the whatever the heroin or whatever in this movie, but I can't really because it was like forced by the studio. I can't really hold it against the movie, you know. I do think it suffers for it, but if I ever watch it again, I'm going to pause it right before that scene happens.
Yeah. It suffers from the ending. I think the movie is greatly improved by not including the foreshadowing of this is how you dupe a geek into becoming a geek. Like not having that speech in this movie is so much better.
I don't know. There is still a lot of pretty blatant and blunt foreshadowing. They talk about it like 2 more times than they did in the new version, though. So I would say it's telegraphed in a completely different way, but still just as obvious.
And I really miss those 2 performances, the Pete character, David Strathairn character, and William Dafoe, just as actors, and really add something to that carnival aspect that I really enjoed.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, but they obviously can't have been in this version, right? So like,
oh, sure.
I think this version could I think they could be improved by adding those characters into this version, which are almost kind of non-existent in this version. Like, there is no geek wrangler in this one, like other than like, go get him, he's running around.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think this movie feels like the abridged version of what we got, the newer one.
I mean, sometimes, but then, like I said, like the Xena element, like the lead up to her character is so much more clear and defined in this version. Like you understand where she's coming from, the history between her and Pete, that I think was foggy in the other version.
Yeah, that's true. And I like better that, she's not giving him a hand job, within 10 minutes of meeting him, like, of course you can't do that in 1947, but like, there's a little bit more, I don't know. I do like that character a lot better. There's a lot
more like subtle hints, like, you know what I mean? Like the old timey Hollywood code for sex, which is like,
Yeah. He's like kissing her arm. Relatively early into the movie.
And you also
so it's all implied.
Yeah. You also get that feeling. I think he seems it's weird in this one too, but he feels a little bit scummier in this one, even.
Yeah.
Because even though he comes out directly and admits that he gave him the wood alcohol on accident, which is not a thing that happens in the new one, but like you're never quite sure. Like, is he just seducing Xena for the code, or does he actually want to be with her? And same thing with Molly, like. He didn't ever want to marry Molly. He was just forced to, because they basically went and had sex the night that, the policeman came. And so they forced him to get married, which is really weird that Xena's the one forcing them. She's like, well, they're getting married. I don't know.
Well, I think it's because everyone has Molly's best interest at heart.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But
they want her to be an honest woman, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think every relationship in this is a little bit more definitively him trying to gain something from it.
Yeah.
and I don't know, that works for me. I do think the alcohol thing worked a little better for me in this one too. Maybe it's just a little bit more understandable of how it was mixed up. You know what I mean? Because if I remember in the new one, they're like, here's the poison and here's the alcohol right next to each other. And they kind of like set it up.
Right. I think in the new one, they kind of tried to play his character a little more ambiguous until his actions spoke for him enough times. Whereas in this one, I think this because most things are told through dialogue in old movies, like you very much get the impression that he is a shameless con man who has an angle on everybody.
Yeah. I like that when he's trying to convince Molly to do the dress up as the dead daughter. Was it daughter?
No,
I think it's just
it was a lover. Old lover.
Like lover, yeah. The other woman has the daughter that he says is in the room or whatever. When he's trying to convince her to do that in this one, he's very much leaning into like, think of how much we're helping him. It's the Christian thing to do or whatever. Like it's right. Like we're doing good by doing this. And if I remember correctly, anyways, correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the other one, it was like, let's just make this, we can get some money out of this and like, then we'll be set and we can move on, this one last thing. And where I liked this version of let me convince her we're doing the right thing. That was a little bit more,
there's
difficult for her to turn down.
Yeah, there's more of a Christian morality that Molly has that I think she represents, the country at the time or whatever. She's like, it was okay until you decided that you were the pastor. Like that was when, you've
building
gone
himself
too far.
a tabernacle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was when she had the problems with it.
Helen Walker too. I thought her performance was really great. Like, and she's not in a ton of other stuff. She's actually in another Criterion movie. Was it Clooney Brown? I was looking up her IMDb because as soon as she had like her first scene or two in this, I had to pause the movie and like, where have I seen her before? And it turns out nowhere. But she has that quality to me. Like I thought she just seemed like she had to have been like an A-list actor I've seen in like 10 movies or something. That's like her quality is like through the roof in my opinion.
Yeah, she is really good in this. Also, both versions of this character is the worst therapist ever. And it kind of actually like it in this movie, because it's, it takes place in 1947 when this movie was made. It's a little bit scarier because psychotherapy and therapy and all that stuff was so misunderstood or not trusted. So like to have that character, like recording and taking advantage of her patients seems like I wonder how much of that feeling was in the culture at the time, just in general, like.
Oh, like if you were watching this movie in 1947, it was probably
you'd be like, all of them are like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. It's like someone making like a story about like a murderous Uber driver.
Yeah.
No.
All those Uber drivers are murders.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Anybody?
I think it's worth watching. I like it. Which one? This will be interesting. I mean, we didn't want to compare them, but which one would you recommend to people? I guess which one do you like better? That's a better question.
Mike?
I would definitely say the new one, I think, is probably the stronger version, to be honest with you. I think, like we said last week, even though there's some really strong, obvious foreshadowing, that exists here too. And so far, I have never seen a version of the story that isn't really easy to spot coming a mile away. So I would say the version where I'm constantly wondering exactly what his motivations are, instead of just knowing he's a slime ball through and through. And the version with, I think that's a better ending, to be honest with you. So, yeah, call it studio interference, call it whatever, but the 1947 version is a little undercut. It's like that Steve McQueen movie, The Cincinnati Kid, where he behaves badly and then like the girl comes and forgives him for everything. And I just don't understand how everyone thought that could make for a better movie, a better story. I don't know. It just feels wrong. It feels like counterproductive or counterintuitive for what we've been shown and where we've been leading. So, and if this scene exists, make it more hardcore. Make him have a beard. Make him be disheveled. Have her have been searching for him for like a year. You know, there's ways to make this scene a little better, and they didn't do that either. So I don't know.
I do like the way that last scene is shot, you know, like with the shadows and anyways. Yeah. What do you think, Justin? I think I know your answer.
Yeah. I think that in terms of like wanting to take away something or like be left with a feeling, the new one's probably the way to go, just because that ending is much stronger and, you know, doesn't undercut the morality and the moral tale of the rest of the movie. I think for entertainment purposes, this movie is better. So if I had to watch one again, I would go to this version.
Yeah, makes sense. This one's also, you know, like an hour shorter.
Yeah. Also, I'm not a huge fan of either version. Let's get that out there. Like, there's a lot of issues that I have with both the overlap between the two. So, like,
yeah, very
the
similar.
shorter one is also better sometimes.
I think I like the newer one better. I feel like we get to dive into characters, and while there are better characters in the first one, I like the time that we get to spend, and even the main character, the Tyrone Power character, I think is better in the first one. Is a more compelling character with his dad stuff and all that going on.
You mean the new one?
Real interesting. In the new one, yes.
The new one.
Yeah, the Bradley Cooper character.
Yeah, I was about to say the like Days of Heaven style intro of the new one, I think really sets a tone for the movie, where like you see him burning the house and the body, but you're not really sure why or how or what that body is. So like right away, you know, he's kind of shady, but the extent of his shadiness, and I think him joining the carnival makes for a stronger setup.
Yeah.
And when we start this movie, he's just sort of already in it, and you're like, how does he not know what a geek is already? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And I really love the Willem Dafoe and, you know, David Strathairn characters that feel so glossed over in this one. And I guess they don't necessarily need to be in there, but I feel like it adds to the story as opposed to detracts, in my opinion. So,
yeah, the thing I miss too is the learning about stuff. Like there's much less of that in this, you know, like I was kind of bummed when they skip over everything, like once he gets his hands on the code, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, like how
or
they're doing it.
Then like all of a sudden he just knows it.
Yeah. I like being in on the con.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing that's more fun in the other one.
Yeah.
The new one.
Cool. Well, both versions, I guess, have their merits. You know, I like both of them.
Yeah. I would recommend watching both of them for sure. What order? Just real quick. First, 1947 first and then the new one, or the new one and then the old one?
I think so. I mean, he made it as a remake, right? A new adaptation of it. So, and he did borrow from this version, like you said. It's like the new version's an amalgamation between the book and this, right? So,
yeah,
I think it's probably best to go in knowing that, because maybe the new one could make you look at it from a different way. Just like, our perception of the old one was colored by having just seen the new one.
Well, it's the opposite for me, because I watched the old one first and I, really liked it. And then I just felt like watching the second one, everything was just like expounded upon. Like I understood things better, after having one,
And you probably didn't need as many scenes with Toni Collette being Xena, because you already kind of understood the Xena character. So you could understand like the subtleties of what was going on in the new one.
Yeah.
Based on having just kind of knowing what that arc is going to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing about this movie being shorter and a little bit more abridged. Like so much of the time I was like, oh yeah, I remember what happens in between that scene, the scene we just had in this scene, right? Like,
yeah.
In some ways, this version is probably improved by having the fleshed out longer version like first.
In your head, yeah.
Because you have it in your head, right? And it's impossible to avoid. As much as I want to, right? So I did have that thought a lot during it. It's just like how much of my understanding of these characters is coming from knowing this story already and knowing everything in between the scenes that are in this movie. So I don't know if you can go wrong, but the natural order of things is to watch the original first. So
Yeah, release order
Maybe
is
that's it.
probably usually best.
Yeah, sure.
Unless you're
All
watching
right.
Star Wars.
Yeah, but even then, your first time, it should probably be release order.
Yeah, probably so. I agree. Okay. Moving on
Yeah.
to the end of the show.
Yeah, I was like moving on to closing
Yeah.
out things.
Yeah, normally you have the poll, but we don't have that this week, so that'll be on our next Criterion episode. But that's it for this episode. So thank you, listeners, so much for listening. As always, thank you, Jake Wagner, also for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, you can do so at soundcloud.com/bopscotch.
All right, stay tuned to this channel. Our next episode will be over the Batman.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you guys let us know what you want us to talk about, write into us, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to write into you.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you know what I want you to talk about.
Who is this guy named Bustin? Did you switch your name?
Huston Jaring.
Yeah, Huston.
All right.